Hi Tiggy, how are you?
Good, thank you. Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Thanks so much for joining us. Um, just very briefly, I'll introduce you. This is Tiggy Bradshaw, who's Managing Director of Access Care, a live-in care agency. I'm not going to talk about the business because I'm hoping you're going to do that. But just a really interesting business, reasonably local to us, funnily enough, and one that I'm suspecting had an interesting time over the last 12 months with all that's been going on. Um, but look, the little I know about your business, I know it was set up by your mother. You now run it. Do you want to just give me the sort of the background story?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, it was set up by my lovely mummy many years ago, nearly 27 years ago now.
Wow.
And she started it because Grandpa, Great Pops, as he was then, had a quadruple bypass. And when she was looking for a home care provision for him, she couldn't find the product that really suited what her and my grandmother were looking for. And that sort of set her off on this whole journey, exploring different types of care options for the home. And our company sort of morphed over the years from doing different types of care. So we used to do the types of care where people pop in and out and did hours here and there.
Yeah.
But over the years, we've developed into what is now known as live-in care, where carers live with people in their own homes.
Yeah. Which is such a great idea. I mean, my mum, bless her cottons, is 84 and still pretty strong and fit, but it's just a horrible moment for people when they have to address that situation. And I'm guessing living just smacks to me of a bit of kind of continuity and a bit of, I don't know, just feels nicer.
It does, absolutely. I think it allows for people to get to know their carers a lot closer and develop that bond of a relationship, because it is predominantly one-to-one care. And there's so much less movement than the hourly care that pops in and out. With the living care, carers can come in and stay for a number of weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And then ideally will dovetail with one other living carer. So they'll do a number of weeks on and off together. So you end up with two people just there that are, you know, known and familiar, which is a nice, calmer way to do things.
Yeah, totally. I totally get that. So tell me a little bit about the backstory. So what made you decide to join the company and follow in your mum's footsteps?
I'd love to say it was an aspiration to run a care agency, but I'd be fibbing.
Yeah.
I was at the time, I spent my formative years running a windsurf school in the Caribbean and floating around the world as a water sports instructor and loving life to the full. And then met my husband at the time and had got pregnant and suddenly came home. And at that point, my mother said, well, time to grow up and get a proper job.
Oh, God.
So I entered into the family business. So it wasn't a great aspiration to do it, but as I've come into it and now I am the managing director of the company, I've totally fallen in love with what it does, and I'm very passionate about people having care in their own homes and developing that product further for them.
And how hard has it been through COVID and stuff? Because we've all, you see on the news the problems that care homes have had and what have you. How's difficult that been for you?
You know, it's been a very interesting journey and an unexpected journey for living care agencies. And I'm a member of a group of living care agencies. So we all chat together and swap stories on this. And it wasn't the path we all expected to happen. We expected at the beginning that we'd be incredibly busy and there'd be an influx of clients wanting us. What actually happened is because so many families were furloughed or family members were furloughed, they ended up looking after their own during the COVID period. So as an industry, living care didn't substantially rise, but the stats that we've all generated from it, and you know, there's incredible stats that everyone's compiling at the moment, soon to be released, saying how much safer and how COVID rates were so much lower for people that had care in their own homes, obviously, because the care homes, like you said, had such a rough trot and really struggled. So it was an unexpected sort of progression through COVID for the industry, but we're all expecting to see a rise as people go back to work, because suddenly they'll find their family members that they've been looking after now need care at home.
Yeah, I get that. And how many carers do you have on it? Do you recruit carers and then work out?
So yes, so I predominantly we are a living care introductory agency. So we recruit carers, match them with our clients based on personality, training experiences, conditions, all that sort of thing, and then introduce them or present them for their selection. So at the moment, I've got approximately just over 300 carers registered on the books with me at the moment.
Have you?
Yeah, so it keeps us busy.
I was going to say absolutely. And look, and give me some examples of how the sort of impact that live-in carers have had on not only their charges but all, the families, obviously, the broader family.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially it's come into its own in the last year, because having a living carer with you all the time has enabled our clients to stay in touch with their relatives, even though if they've been in isolation. They've obviously been able to isolate with their carer, which is wonderful, brilliant for their mental health and the companionship levels. But also the carers have been really good at helping the families buy their clients iPads or laptops or any form of communication, and then helping them use that so they can Zoom the families and be there for the family occasions that have, quite frankly, all been a bit rubbish for us all over the last year, haven't they? But at least virtually, everyone's been able to see their parents or their loved ones on Zoom with the help of the carers, which has been great.
And what sort of what sort of feedback have you had from families, and how they feel that you've helped them sort of keep in touch, if you like?
Yeah, I think mostly most of the feedback we get comes out of an expression of peace of mind, and the families have just felt calmer knowing that somebody's been there with their relative during the time, and they've also just been ecstatic that they've been able to have this virtual communication with them at the same time as well, which is great. And we've had to help a lot of the carers to use Zoom as well, because as a carer, that's not their natural place to sit. That's far more us in business, isn't it, than people that look after people on a practical level. So some of the carers have had to learn. So we've been busy teaching so many people how to use communication like this.
Absolutely. And I guess also the carers that you put into homes not only have to get to know and look after, their charge, or what patient, I guess you call them, but also they've got to get to know the families as well. I suppose that's a sort of interesting dynamic as well.
Yeah, they do. They end up becoming very much part of a family too. In fact, we hear lovely stories that even after their lovely clients have passed away, the carers are still invited to Christmas lunch, because they've been part of the family for a good number of years. And I just think that's beautiful. That's really, really nice. But normally they would spend a lot more time with the grandchildren, the children of, any form of the relative of the person they're looking after. This year, it's obviously been very difficult. Some of the carers have only met the relatives of the person they're looking after virtually. So it'd be really nice when they all can finally meet face to face and, get to know each other better.
I bet you can't wait. I mean, we all can't wait. It's been interesting times for us, us as, we predominantly deal with schools and school parents, and it's been a really difficult time for schools. But what's interesting is to pluck the positives from the last 12 months. And there's a question we always ask, I always ask people I'm talking to on these sort of things is, what have you learned in the last 12 months that you would keep on doing? I don't know, a practice or something that you've had to adapt to that actually you've found to be pretty good.
I would say definitely it's this, using Zoom. So my new business team have now are doing online chats with people that are looking into care. And not only that, they're able to connect with different siblings even around the world to have that one chat about the service we can provide. So that's been amazing, because before it's always been, I'll phone you and then you phone your brother and then you phone your sister, and together they'll all decide. Whereas now I know we could have done it by telephone conferencing before, but we didn't. Whereas now we can actually all get together, and it's as if we're sat around the table, isn't it? And everybody can come up with the best options for mum or dad, and we can help them go through that care journey. And even if we will all come to the conclusion that living care isn't actually what they're after, so we just then would help signpost them towards a better solution for their individual case, which is great.
And actually, while we all crave face-to-face chat, actually what Zoom has enabled us to do is, funnily enough, communicate more.
Yes, I agree, absolutely.
And what's the future for Access Care? Where do you take it from here? Are there sort of new innovations, or how does it go from here on in?
I think there's so I have quite a few other care agencies that employ staff asking me if I can provide them with carers. So that could be an interesting development. the natural progression for us would be to look into other household staff. So perhaps housekeepers, butlers, that sort of brand as a recruitment agency. That would be an easy morph, if you like.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the care bit. I enjoy the pleasure from seeing happy families from it, and I'm not sure I quite get that from the other household staff aspect.
Totally, and it's in the family. Your mother won't be very pleased if you start doing something else. Keep her happy.
Don't tell her.
And have you got kids? Have you got children yourself?
I do. I've got two. My lovely daughter is at Sherborne Girls.
Okay.
So she's down in Dorset doing her, well, partially doing her GCSEs this term.
Yeah.
She's doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And I have a son who's 18 this year. He's at Agricultural College doing his thing.
Brilliant. And so how do you find juggling running a business and having two children? Yeah.
Very difficult. Very difficult. It's always been difficult. In fact, I was wrong in the challenge that I thought it would get easier as they got older.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure that's happened. I don't think it does. I seem to be on demand more with them now as teenagers than I was when I just dropped them into nursery and picked them up at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I feel your pain. It's very nice. We love them dearly, but it's quite nice when they do get back to school eventually. Yeah.
I agree.
Bit of P&Q. Well, and so if people want to get hold of Access Care, I guess they just go to the website and they can do everything from there.
Yeah, we're access-care.co.uk. And that will give everybody everything they need. And there's forms you can fill in, there's loads of info, and of course the phone numbers where you can just pick us up, and we're always at the end of the phone.
Brilliant. All right, well, Tiggy, look, lovely to meet you, and thanks so much for your time. I know you're busy, and I really appreciate that, and great to hear about Access Care. That sounds really interesting.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Nice to meet you.
No problem. We'll speak soon.